Tell me, what's all this commotion about?
It's the Denton and Sasquatch Show.
This place is half talk show, half weird daycare. I love it.
Reports of strong interference with radio.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome once again to the Denton and Sasquatch Show, coming to you live from both California and Alabama. My name is Sasquatch, and my good friend on the other end of the mic, his name is Denton.
Hi. Thought you were going to ask me how I'm doing.
I really don't care, so...
Well, do it just for the show anyway.
Oh, all right. How you doing, Denton?
Oh, man, I'm all right. I'm going to get paid.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Well,
now from Denton's bitch desk.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to work today because they asked me to. And I work on post. I work on an Army installation, so I come up to the gate and I present my ID. And it was a beautiful day today after many days of cold weather and that kind of stuff. It was snow. And I said, it's a beautiful day. We're at work, not fishing. And the guy at the gate says, yeah, and I'm not even getting paid to be here. I said, oh, that's right. You're a DOD. That'd be Department of Defense, a security guard. He goes, yep. And you know what really burns my butt? I said, a flame about 3 feet high. No, apparently that was not what burned his butt. The fact that he's not getting paid, and a lot of people are not getting paid, but Congress. Congress is getting paid.
Of course they are.
So he wasn't very happy about that, but you know what? He cheerily came to work, and he was doing his job, making sure bad folks don't come onto the military installation. So I drive a little further down the road, and I get to the airfield where I work, and there's another gate, of course, and I show my identification to the military policeman standing there. And I said, hey, I got a question for you there. Are soldiers getting paid? He goes, as of today, we're not getting paid. Now, if you have a choice, I mean, if essential versus a non-essential, which one would you figure is more essential? Soldiers or Congress critters?
Well, coming from my end, definitely soldiers.
Well, thing about soldiers is they don't get to write the rules.
Well, that's usually how it works.
Yeah, but the Congress, the same putzes that shut down the government, they made sure that they're not going to miss any money. Oh, like they need their government paychecks. How many people do you know go to any job? How many people go to work at $120,000, whatever it is, we'll say $120,000 a year job, and 10 years later are multimillionaires? Don't you find that kind of strange?
Well, it is strange. It's all kabuki theater. They don't care if the government shuts down.
Yeah, but still they make sure that they get paid. And thank you, Democrats, and a handful of moronic Republicans who decide we need to have a government shutdown, which in some ways I could say it's not such a bad idea, but still it's a principle of the thing. They want to shut the government down until we deal with DACA.
Of course.
This is a budget issue, morons. Has nothing to do with allowing people who entered this country illegally stay legally. You're holding us hostage over something that has nothing to do with the budget.
Well, let's just
now, all you people.
I was just going to say, let's just hope the American people remember this come voting time.
Well, let's see if they do. But until then, all you people who live in a blue state, for example, a state, let's say Connecticut. Okay, and you voted for Democrats. Now, never mind. If you voted for Democrats, you're probably not listening to us. But if you're listening to us, you live in a blue state, when you go to work Monday, do us a favor, and all the Democrats you run to the rest of the day, kick them square in the nuts.
Hear.
You can't get there to Schumer. You can't kick Schumer in the nuts, but you can kick the ones who put Schumer there in the nuts.
Man, I'm going to have a lot of kicking to do on Monday.
Oh, man, you're going to have a broke leg. You're going to be fatigued.
Better take my vitamins.
knock them slim in the teeth.
We could do that.
Speaking of teeth,
Rob the jewelry store and tell him make me a grill.
don't we have somebody with us today?
Yeah, I was wondering when you're going to get to that. You're being a rude guest or a host.
We have been promising Fang Farrier would be on the show, 2 people. And by the way, if you haven't figured out what Fang Farrier, stop and think about it for a minute. Now, there's some folks who aren't into horses. You know, a farrier that takes care of the horse's hooves, you know. Fang, teeth, farrier, takes care of them. Today we have, drumroll please, Fang Farrier. He's going to talk to us about dental hygiene, and when the shit hits the fan, how are you going to take care of them teeth? Fang, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Denton. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. So now look here, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this.
Wait a second, real quick, just because you said today we're going to talk about dental hygiene, and I heard podcast volumes going down all across the country when you said that. No offense to you, Fang, but it's something that doesn't seem very entertaining. So what I want to say is we've been talking to Fang before the show, and this guy is hilarious. He's fun to talk to, has a lot of great stories, so you're going to love listening to him, all right? Just wanted to get that out there.
Well, I don't understand where you're coming from, because the lights go out in Georgia, so to speak. A month later, you've got a problem with your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
If the lights went out in Georgia, again, so to speak, I don't think your dentist is going to be showing up at his office. What do you do? What will you do?
Pop quiz, hotshot.
So Fang is here to help us with this. Fang, where do you want to lead off on this?
Well, we're all about prepping here. So the idea is let's prep for our teeth. The tooth decay and the gum disease that you may get in the future, well, that's totally preventable. You can start now and say, A, save yourself a lot of money, and B, save yourself a lot of hassle when the SHTF. So as I'm going to try and teach you how gum disease and tooth decay starts, what you need to do to prevent it, and by doing this, put some money in your pocket that you can use for other preps.
Okay.
So
that's a good idea.
Let's start with tooth decay, because that's the one most people worry about. That's the one that causes the problem. But tooth decay, you need 4 things. So pop quiz, what 4 things do you need for tooth decay? Denton, give me one of them.
What do you need for tooth decay?
Teeth.
Correct. Absolutely correct. That's one of the 4.
Can't really.
Okay, you need something to feed the bacteria. Let's say sugar.
Correct. Number 2. Well done. And I'll give you the bacteria as well. Number 3. So you've got teeth. You've got a food supply for the bugs and the bugs. And number 4, you won't get it.
I won't.
Time.
No, time.
You're right. I would have got that.
It takes over 24 hours for the bugs to organize themselves into a way that they can start to decay your teeth. So that's why we say brush your teeth twice a day, so that within that 24-hour period, once in the morning, once in the evening, you will hopefully cover all the areas, all the surfaces of your teeth and disturb the bacteria. So the bacteria will never get into the state where they can do damage to your teeth. Now, other ways you could do it, you could remove all the teeth, therefore you've taken one of the 4 away and you can't have toothpaste, but it's not a great option. The other way you could say is, right, I'm not going to feed them. Well, that proves pretty difficult because you need to get food down your neck. And if it's not going through your mouth, well, I don't really want to know. You've got an eating disorder if you're sticking your carrots up your nose. The bugs, you're never going to get rid of the bugs, but you can change the bugs by having a low-sugar diet, by chewing the sugar-free gum. You encourage the growth of bugs that don't cause the tooth decay in your mouth. Now, when they're there and living there and they're quite happy in your mouth, to the ones that don't cause disease, you can stop tooth decay in the long run. And that's why we advocate all the sugar-free foods and chewing gum and brushing your teeth with fluoride, toothpaste. These are all good things. I know people go off on fluoride and they say, oh, it's a poison. Yeah, sure it is a poison, just like sugar or alcohol or, cyanide in apple pips. It is a poison if you have too much of it. But just like salt, a little bit of it is good for you. So
now, wouldn't fluoride kill all the bugs?
Not at the levels that we use in toothpaste. If you swilled your mouth out with fluoride, yep, it would kill all the bugs. It would kill you as well, but it would kill all the bugs. The fluoride toothpaste is just enough. And the idea of the fluoride toothpaste is if the bugs do get there and do start to demineralize, to dissolve your teeth, the fluoride gets absorbed back into the teeth. Now, once it's in there, that enamel is really a lot harder to dissolve. It requires an awful lot more acid, therefore a lot more time, and therefore it gives you a little bit more breathing space to get your oral hygiene in check. You know that enamel is the second hardest naturally occurring substance on the planet. That's why the dentists use diamonds to cut teeth. It really is that tough, and yet these wee microbes can dissolve them from the inside out. And the problem is, once there's a little hole in the tooth, they then can live in it and you can't clean it that well. And that's when the decay starts. Once you're through the thick enamel, you're down to dentine or dentin underneath. And that's soft and spongy and can really dissolve away quickly. And underneath that is the pulp or the nerve, whose only job is to say, ow, ow, ow. And we've all seen that scene from Castaway, where he removes his own tooth. Well, that's pretty much the option. Once the bugs are inside you, you've got problems. So let's stop them getting inside you. If you have restorations, if you have fillings already, get them checked, make sure they're not leaking. Clean them. My goodness, if you spent as much on your teeth as you do on your car, you surely should be out there cleaning and polishing it every day. If I had a Ferrari sat outside, I'd be out polishing it and cleaning it and making sure it ran spick and span every day. But people just think their teeth are just there and it's their bad luck or the way they were born, or they were born with soft teeth, and it's not so. It is purely down to diet and hygiene. And once you can prevent tooth decay, you don't have to worry about spending lots of money. You just get somebody to look at it, somebody to possibly polish or remove any stains that you can't, and you're away. Once you crack that, no problems. My example is, for me, I had fillings as a child. I always had fillings. A filling every time I went to the dentist. I went to dental school. I learned how decay is caused. I stopped eating sugar. I started cleaning and flossing every day, and I haven't had a filling in 30 years. You've all gone quiet now.
Well, to prepare for something, okay, of course, we can stock up on, and I do, trust me, teeth are important. I love eating. And so teeth are important. Plus, I don't like the pain, of the nerve pain of bad tooth. So I've got stocked up on toothbrushes, toothpaste. I love these. They're called plackers here, little sticks with a floss in there, so you can just hold on to the stick and just floss them between your teeth. It's really, really good little item there. Stock up on those. But, you can only stock up on so much. And eventually, if the lights stay out long enough and there's total anarchy or whatever, you're going to run out of supplies. What do we do then? Is soda, baking soda and salt that good? Do we use rags like they used to? What do you suggest?
There are tribes out in Amazon that we haven't discovered yet. And those that we have discovered, they've never had toothbrushes. They have never had floss. And yet they don't have tooth decay because they control their sugar. But what they do is chew sticks. And it's the fibrous end of the stick which is rough enough to remove it. Baking powder is used in toothpastes. It's a very expensive way of making a toothpaste, but it's used in toothpaste. It's fine. Salt, again, has a slightly abrasive quality to it, but will brush the plaque off. It's the physical removal of the plaque. Your brushes, if you haven't got a brush, if you chew a stick, if you chew chewing gum, that will help remove the plaque at the same time. So there's even the case for putting your finger in your mouth and rubbing it around. As long as you're disturbing that plaque, you're doing it. The Romans, they used to crush up cockle shells and then brush their teeth with it. It was very abrasive, but it did the job.
Now, if you had a choice between toothbrush and toothpaste, or a box of. When I say placards, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we call them TP brushes.
Okay. If you have a choice between that or basically floss, dental floss, or toothpaste and brushes, which one would you recommend?
Oh, a choice between the two. Hard one. I probably would say the toothpaste and toothbrush because of the additional qualities of the toothpaste. If it was toothbrush or floss, probably floss.
Okay. Now, you're talking about chewing on a stick. You're just talking about picking up a stick in the woods, or do you do something with the stick first? You just chew it on wood? Is it just the chewing on the wood that does it?
You want a wood that's quite fibrous. I can't recall the name of the one they use in the Amazon at the moment, but you don't want a hardwood. You want something that when you crush it down, breaks into fibers. So the end looks like a frayed paintbrush.
Okay.
Hey,
and it's the fibers as you chew on them, and obviously not broken up so that you can swallow. They're kept together, but it's the fibers going between teeth and around teeth that will remove that plaque.
Hey, I've heard of people taking mint leaves, maybe just because the mint's a little more pleasant, but would that work as well?
Mint leaves, chewing on them is fine. Do you know why toothpaste is mint flavored? It's to stop children enjoying it. Because we put fluoride in toothpaste, and if a small child was to find an adult toothpaste and ate the whole thing, it would kill the child. So we put a flavor in it that children don't like. So when they taste it, it's too minty for them and they won't eat the whole thing, which is why children's toothpaste have pleasant flavors but very low fluoride.
Oh, that's like like cherry and things like that. I never thought of that before. You learn something new every day.
The reason I didn't eat the toothpaste is because my mother made it very clear, eat it and you'll die. But I've always loved the taste of mint. See, now, y'all's way of thinking would have killed me if I didn't have my mother.
Yeah. You know, some people think the whole world is full of idiots. I don't think so. I just think they're strategically placed so you meet them every day.
The world's not full of idiots. They're just gaining in popularity. That's all.
That's one of God's little jokes. He strategically places them so you run into them every day.
Yeah, well,
it gives you a feeling of good for yourself. You feel better.
I do think we'd be a lot better off if we took the warning labels off things. I think the problems would solve themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
The Darwin.
Look, if you want to take a hairdryer into the shower with you, who am I or a warning label to stop you?
That toaster will look good in the bathroom.
Hey, since we were talking about mint, just real quick, it's sort of off topic, but I hate like mint ice cream or mint candy or anything like that, because to me, it tastes like you just brushed your teeth and then you crammed a big piece of chocolate in your mouth, and that's just a nasty taste to me. Does anybody else feel that way?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a fan of mint. No.
Denton?
No, I like mint. I love mint, but that's like lemon. I love lemons, and I love peanut butter. Okay, but I don't put the two together.
All right, good to know. I'm not the only one then.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
We're back to I love toasts and I love baths, but I wouldn't put the two together.
Right. Now, let's get to this, because you're talking about this is how you can take care of your teeth. Now, before we start the show, you're talking about how, the things that is going to happen, like if you get punched in the mouth, there's a chance that you may have a broken tooth. Now, in the past, I have thought I would use my teeth as pliers because I didn't have them readily available. As you can imagine, it meant that I went to the dentist a couple of days later to get a fixed tooth. What do you do when there are no dentists available and you just cracked a tooth because either somebody got mad at you, or if you're like me, you're an idiot?
That all depends on where the break is. So if the break is within enamel, it's tough. You're just going to have to smooth it with a piece of sandpaper and live like that. If it's within dentin, So when you look at the tooth, you'd have a white ring around the outside and a more yellow ring inside. Then that yellow ring, the dentin, is A, super sensitive, and B, more porous to allow bacteria. And so you're going to get problems there later. It's going to wear away quicker as well. Now, you can get yourself some dental kits. Now, within all dental kits, you're looking for something called zinc oxide eugenol. Zinc oxide eugenol is the emergency dressing that you would use in teeth. It was developed further to something called immediate restorative material, which you can actually buy on Amazon for about $60. Interestingly enough, that was designed by the Americans for Vietnam. And the reason is it's a very white paste. It contains eugenol, oil of cloves, which is a sedative, which will calm the tooth down. And it also will take food coloring. So what you do is you mix up the paste. And if it's a tooth that needs a dentist to intervene quickly, you drop a little bit of red food coloring in it, so the filling is red. And if it needs some attention, but it's not immediate and it will get you through, you put a little bit of blue in. And if it's adequate and will last 18 months and see you through the end of the wall, then you leave it as white, so that when the dentist looks in the mouth, he sees red, white, and blue. He knows which priority the other dentist wants you to do them in. But
Patriotic little boogers.
Sorry?
Patriotic little boogers.
Yeah, red. Well, other colours are available. You could have green, white, and gold if you wanted. The eugenol in it calms the tooth down. So if you've got a big break, you'd want to put that on. It's not a permanent answer. It's not much else you can do really other than look after it. If you break the tooth further down and you can see pink or red, you definitely need the eugenol on it. It's the same kind of level of pain as you'll see from the marathon man when he drills into the tooth. You definitely want oil of cloves on there. Now, oil of cloves is interesting. It is a traditional medicine and it works. It does remove pain. We're not really sure. There's some clever chemistry going on there. But it works along the same lines as chilies. There's cabiscum in it, which deadens the nerves. So you really are just killing off the nerve and stopping it firing off at that point. The worst problem, I would say, if someone punched you in the teeth, is not breaking the teeth. The teeth don't break, but the jaw that holds them breaks. So the very thin bit of bone that holds the tooth in place shatters. There you've got a problem. If the tooth goes further into your jaw, you need to pull it out to the right length. If it comes out, you need to push it in. If the tooth comes out altogether, then we in the UK run a campaign called Pick It, Lick It and Stick It. And that encourages parents whose children get their teeth knocked out at school to pick it up, to lick it, and then to stick it either in their mouth or in a glass of milk until they can get to a dentist. The reason you pick it, lick it, and stick it and not wipe it or wash it is the tooth contains or has a very thin membrane around the root. And if that membrane is damaged, the body will reject the tooth. But if the membrane is in place, the body will accept the tooth. And you can get 10 to 15 years out of a tooth that's been reimplanted before the body works out that it's dead. So by putting it in milk, we're keeping it moist. It's at the right pH. It's not being damaged. Ideally, you want it in your mouth with the saliva, so it's your bugs, etc. on it. And the bugs aren't great for you, but they're better than it drying out and that membrane being lost. But the problem with putting it in your mouth is when you sit down in the chair and the dentist says, "Can I have the tooth?" It wasn't chewing gum then, and you've swallowed it. So, in small children, you wouldn't stick it in their mouth. You put it in milk. Or if you are the parents, you'd probably stick it in your mouth because your bugs are pretty similar to your children's bugs.
Hey, I've got that. I've got that same motto for my dating life.
Pick it, stick it, and lick it.
Yes.
Oh boy. We've just shot right through our PG rating.
Could you explain that to me, Sass?
No, he can't.
We'll talk after the show.
Right. Let's go back to teeth. Hey? So you've got this tooth that you've rinsed in milk and it's been placed back in. If you've no dentist and you're able to gently rinse it in saline or fresh water and place it back in, you then need to splint the tooth. And the best way to splint a tooth, if you have no instruments or no tools around you, is tin foil. So, Sass, just rip a bit from your hat, roll it up into a thick bit, put it over your teeth front and back, and then use the immediate restorative material, zinc oxide, eugenol, emergency dental kit to hold that foil in place, and use the other teeth like a splint to hold it in. Number one, you've got a talking point now that you've got your grill on, but number two, it will keep everything in place.
Never thought of that before. That's actually ingenious.
Now, look here. You're going, we're going to post this in prepperforums.net. You're going to have to give us some links to this stuff.
Okay, that's not a problem. I can do that. Amazon, I will do it from the American viewpoint. Amazon.com. I will have a look. Essential kit, I would say, if you haven't got already, disposable hand mirrors. They're about $20 for 100. Very useful for seeing around corners, for moving things out of the way, not only in your own mouth, but in your colleague's mouth as well, or your family's mouth. There's lots of dental picks and probes that you can purchase. Personally, I wouldn't bother, because most people make the mistake of, if a tooth is soft, poking it. And actually, dentists, we don't poke teeth with probes. We don't do that anymore, because what we realize is we can cavitate teeth with the probes and cause problems. So very rarely will we use a probe to actually poke into a tooth. Mostly we use probes to go into broken teeth already and remove pieces of soft tissue and debris. So the mirrors are a definite plus. I would have lots of floss, because floss is super, super useful. In fact, there was a prisoner in the States who became a born-again flosser, and he went to his health center every week and got his floss, and he wanted his teeth to be immaculate. And not only did he get this free floss and free toothpaste, but he also compiled a rope out of it and escaped. So obviously the prison officers were looking for somebody with really good teeth that had escaped, because the floss is really, really strong. So having floss in your prepper kit is really useful, not only for your teeth, but it's a very good way of tying things together, because it is so strong. You can get Teflon tape. It's very good. It's called Glide. It's the Rolls Royce of dental floss. It's very strong, but it is very expensive. Now, going back to floss, are you aware there's two types? There's floss and there's tape.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what the difference is?
The tape goes between the teeth easier.
Yeah, the cross-section is flat, whereas floss, the cross-section is round.
Yes.
So although we talk about flossing, it should actually be taping, because we use tape.
Well, there you go, Sass.
What else would I have in my kit? I would have oil of cloves, zinc oxide eugenol, which I said is the trade name from a company called Dentsply is immediate restorative material. It does have an expiry date, but it's quite long, and as long as you keep it out of extremes of temperature, I would still be tempted to use it. Tin foil, talked about. Let's talk about dentures, because there will be people out there who have dentures. Dentures are made of several materials. The most common materials are cobalt chrome and acrylic. Now, acrylic is the plastic bit, the pink and the white bits. Lots of people who break their dentures come and see me, and they think they've been really, really clever because they've glued it back together. It looks great, but they've used super glue. Now, if you ever get a packet of super glue, and look at the back at the instructions, it says, if you've been dumb and glued your fingers together, then what you must do is keep them warm and moist, and the glue will dissolve. Well, I can't think of anywhere that's warmer and moister, and that we can talk about on the show, than your mouth. So they're putting this glue on, and they're putting it into the mouth, and it dissolves and breaks. But once it's on that acrylic, it's incredibly difficult to get off. Now, when we repair, we use acrylic glue. I don't know a brand name in America of acrylic glue. Basically 2 tubes that you mix together. Sass, any ideas?
Of the glue?
Sounds like epoxy.
Epoxy resin is very similar, and I don't know a brand name though. But we use a very expensive version of that to glue things together, and then charge you a vast sum of money. But that's what it is.
That's what I use to fix my surfboard. Epoxy.
Well, it's funny, but when we have guys who break their surfboards, they always come and ask for our impression material, because we use an impression material that's silicon-based, that's very runny, and within 2 minutes sets rock hard. And you can run it into all the cracks, and it seals it up very well.
Wow. I'll have to look into that.
Now, Sass is he's going to go to the dentist come Monday.
With my surfboard.
I mean, the other material we use for impressions is called alginate. Do you know what alginate's made of?
Algae?
Seaweed.
Oh, all right. There you go.
So that when you pick up seaweed, you know that it's kind of slimy. Well, that slimy is the stuff that we use. Oh, and talking of which, you know the seaweed that you see that has the very long leaves?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you never see sea anemones around there. Do you know why?
I would guess it's some kind of irritant to them.
No, because with fronds like those, you don't need anemones.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll take bad puns for 200, Alex.
Okay. Now, I have been an idiot, and I've ignored all your advice. I've eaten honey buns, ding-dongs, ho-hos, and I'm not talking about some friends of mine at work. I've eaten gobs of sugar. Now I've got a really, really bad tooth. And I'm talking about a tooth that's just caused me all kinds of angst.
Well, what's happened there is the nerve is firing off in the tooth. The nerve's telling you there's a problem. There's very little you can do other than try and clean the tooth out, try and remove the debris from inside the tooth. But if it's cavitated, it's going to collect food. You've just got to keep it clean. What you're going to hope for is the tooth dies quietly. Worst case scenario is it doesn't, in which case you're going to be in extreme pain. Now, there is something called the Oxford League of Analgesia, pain relief. And what we look at is we compare drugs for pain relief against morphine. And actually, one of the best drugs, one of the best regimes for removing pain is good old ibuprofen and paracetamol. A combination of those two is as good as 10 milligrams of intramuscular morphine, according to the books. So if you're in pain, you want to be taking ibuprofen and paracetamol. Now, be careful with paracetamol. As you know, you can overdose yourself, so don't go over the maximum dose. Ibuprofen has a very, very high maximum dose, so you probably won't do it with that. So by combining ibuprofen and paracetamol over the 24 hours, you will remove the pain. But that's not going to... Sorry, go on.
Is there a brand name of what is that? Because I've never heard of it.
Paracetamol, acetaminophen.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he makes ibuprofen and acetaminophen.
That's it.
Now,
sorry, if I use UK brand names, I apologize.
And by the way, kiddies out there, do not take acetaminophen and drink booze. You will shoot your liver to hell, and you will die.
Yep, that's the warning.
Now that's killing the pain.
Yeah.
but it's not obviously not going to fix the tooth.
No, you've got to remove the debris. If it's cavitated, if you can see a hole, you've got to get it clean. And then by using the zinc oxide eugenol, you will slow down the process. But unless you have a dentist who can remove the infected dentin and replace it with a restoration, you're not going to be able to do it. You can put something in there to slow it down, but eventually the inevitable will happen. The tooth will be lost. Your biggest worry is not the pain, it's the infection that can get there. Because once you've opened up a tooth, you then have an entrance to the inside of your body from the outside world. And if bugs can get in there, it's really difficult for your immune system to get into a tooth and to fight the bacteria. Now, this is where a lot of people say, but I'll take antibiotics. Well, that's great, but antibiotics work because they travel in your bloodstream. And if that tooth doesn't have a blood supply because it's dead, you're not going to get antibiotics into the tooth. All you're going to do is get the antibiotics into the surrounding tissue and mask the problem. The answer is either take the tooth out or pop a hole in it and let it drain, because that infection, if it builds up, can kill you. If you have an infection on, say, a lower jaw, it can track down into your neck. Now, your neck is, if you imagine a tube full of tubes, if you were to cut your head off, that would cause the pain to go away. But if you cut your head off and look down, you'd see a tube full of tubes. But it's finite. So once the infection gets into those tubes, it can get so far and then it stops. It won't fill your whole body. It will stop. And it will expand and it will crush those tubes. Now, unfortunately, one of those tubes is your airway. And once that closes, it's end of game. So we have an infection called Ludwig's angina, which swells your neck, closes your airway, and can kill you very rapidly. But the good news is it's not just your lower teeth that can kill you, it's your upper teeth as well. Your upper teeth can track up under the eye and into the brain and cause sepsis. So really, if you have an infection, a big swelling, and you're brave enough, if you have a scalpel or a very sharp knife, poke it, drain it. It's going to hurt, but if you can drain that infection out, that's the best thing for it. A lot of people say, well, I've had no toothache from this tooth, and yet you're telling me I need a root canal on it. Well, yes, because if you look very carefully at your gum, you'll see a tiny little pimple, a little gum boil. And what that is a swelling infection that will raise and burst, and you get a bad taste in your mouth for a couple of hours, and then it goes away. And that's because you're not getting pain, you're not getting build-up, because that infection is draining. So draining the infection will stop the swelling and therefore more pain. But once the nerve's dead in the tooth, it can't really hurt you.
Good to know.
You know what? This is like watching House MD and Hugh Laurie not using an American accent.
You know, I was thinking, just listening to him explain all this stuff, I'm thinking, you know what? Patriot Nurse has nothing on us.
No, not at all. No, this is much better. Now, when would you suggest removing the tooth? I mean, the whole cleaning thing, and I don't know exactly how I would clean a tooth, but then again, I don't know exactly how I would remove it either.
Okay, removing teeth. You've been to the beach, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, imagine going to the beach with a bamboo stick.
Well, I don't know why I would, but okay, let's imagine.
This bamboo stick, you push it into the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you bury this bamboo stick in the sand. 2/3 of it's below the sand, 1/3 of it above.
Okay.
Now you try and pull that out. If you try and pull that bamboo stick out, A, you're going to find it really hard because of the friction, the grip. But B, you're probably going to snap it. And you're going to leave 2/3 of the stick in the sand, the top third. It's the same with teeth. 2/3 of the tooth are usually in the gum, in the bone, 1/3 above. If you lean on it, you're going to break it. So most people talk about pulling teeth out. Well, teeth are held in place. The technical term is a gomphosis, but basically it's the only part of your body where hard tissue meets hard tissue. Normally you have it surrounded in fluid or in a joint, but here it's straight against, and they have little tiny fibers. They're called periodontal ligaments, little tiny fibers that hold the tooth in place. They're your body's shock absorbers. So when you bite into something hard, instead of your teeth all snapping, the shock absorber takes the force and allows you to eat. It also has little fibers in it to say, hey, don't bite so hard, because that's the pressure you can feel from it. So these fibers are very strong, and they're very strong in a certain direction. So if you try and pull a tooth out, you are working against the strength of that fiber. Don't forget your stick is in the sand, so you've got to look at the two. So if I push a tooth back into the socket, I'm pushing the fibers against their natural strength, and they will break. If I have the stick in the sand, instead of pulling it out, if I was to push it in a little bit and then start waggling it round and round and round, better in a figure of 8, if I wiggled it into a figure of 8, what I do is I widen the sand to make sure that there's none pressing against the stick, and then it comes out. The same with teeth. Bone, everyone thinks bone is hard. Bone is tough, but bone is actually spongy. You can move bone. So by putting pressure on a tooth and pushing it into the socket and then waggling it in a figure of 8, you break all the fibers and you expand the bone. The bone will move out the way. It will take you 3 or 4 minutes or longer if you've not got the technique. And you expand the bone till it's absolutely loose around the tooth, and then the tooth will come out very easily. Same with the stick. You'd waggle the stick around till there was no sand gripping it, and then you take it out. The worst thing you can do is snap a tooth. Now, if you snap a tooth as a dentist when you're taking a tooth out, if there's less than 4 millimeters of tooth behind, it's not going to do anything. You leave it, let the bone grow over, and the body will get rid of it in years to come. It will work its way out. If you have more than 4 millimeters, you've got a problem. You really have to go in there. And as a dentist, it's one of the most difficult things you do. You have to cut that gum, you have to drill that bone away, you have to dig that bit of tooth out, and then you have to repair all the damage you've done. You, not being a dentist in an SHTF kind of situation, you don't want to get yourself into that. You're going to cause yourself big problems. You're going to become a liability to your group. So you've really got to be extra careful. You don't want to lean on teeth. You want to remember they're straight. You want to put force down the axis of the tooth and a little twisting motion perhaps. But whatever you do, you don't want to bend that tooth. You don't want to, if you imagine holding the pliers in your hand, you want that wrist straight. You don't want to break that wrist. You don't want to move with your wrist. You want to move with your elbow, and that'll put the right kind of force on it. It's going to hurt like mad, but once it's out, it's out. When it's out, the best thing you can do is let the socket bleed, because that blood will clot and form a natural plug to stop bacteria and food getting in. Now, when you're at the dentist, what we do is we get a piece of gauze and we stick it on top of the socket. Now, the trick is to wet it. So if you have a wet, clean handkerchief or a wet piece of gauze, put it over the socket and apply pressure by simply biting on it for 5 to 10 minutes, then remove it. That clot will be in place and the bone will be there. Now, another story I will tell you is astronauts. Astronauts, when they go up in space in the ISS, when they come down, have you noticed that people help them walk? And the reason they help them walk is their legs aren't strong. The legs aren't strong because the bone is weak. The bone is weak because it hasn't had pressure put on it. Bone is a very expensive biological material for your body to keep going. So if it's not needed, it won't have it. So if you take a tooth out of a jaw, there's no pressure on that bone, and the bone will resorb, which is why you get the dips in the bone when teeth have been removed. That's why they're not level. So people have all their teeth out and wear dentures, find that the dentures become looser and looser and looser over the years because the bone's not getting the pressure and it resorbs away. So you want to be able to keep as much bone as possible, so don't snap teeth off with bone on it. I'm sorry, it's getting gurrier and gurrier. There's not a lot meant to do. Let's talk about pain, though. What can you do if you are taking the pain out? Well, I think Sass said alcohol. It's actually a very good sedative. The other things, if you can get hold of it, it's very hard to get hold of in the UK, but I believe you can get hold of it in the United States, is benzocaine. 20% benzocaine applied to the gum is an excellent analgesia anesthetic. It's hard to get hold of, but if you can get hold of it, it's great. 20% strength is enough that if you put it on the gum, it will actually seep through. The actual drugs like Novocaine, Lignocaine, Articaine, I would imagine are prescription-only medicines that you wouldn't be able to get hold of. And even if you did get hold of it, you probably wouldn't have the syringes to use it because they're special syringes. And even if you had the special syringes and the drug, you probably wouldn't know how to administer it safely, because if you put that into a blood vessel, it's good night Vienna.
Hey, one of the things my mom made me do when I had a sore tooth was gargle with salt water. Is that an old wives' tale, or does that actually help?
Salt water is hot salt water mouthwashes are excellent for infections and diseases. If you have ulcers, hot salt mouthwashes are actually very good. Ulcers themselves in your mouth don't actually cause the pain. It's not the ulcer that causes the pain. It's the infection and the bacteria getting into the ulcer that causes the problems. So hot salt water, your mum was right. It's a very good mouthwash to use.
Well, I need to make a phone call then.
To thank her?
Tell her she was right this entire time.
But did you argue with her?
Of course I did. I was a kid.
Oh, true.
Oh, Mom, I don't want to gargle with that stuff.
Fang, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Don't want to continue to harp on the tooth extraction thing, because I don't think anybody wants to do that. But how do you do it? I mean, what tool? I mean, I've got slip joint pliers. I have, I call them all 16th wrenches. I got a hammer. What tool do I use?
You want something that will grip a tooth. So fine nose pliers will do it. What we do is we have modified pliers called forceps, which grip a tooth in certain ways. We want them to grip around the bulbosity. The problem is your pliers are going to be straight, so you're trying to grip something that's round with something that's straight, and you'll only make contact at certain points. So wrenches, no, because you've got the wrong action. You want something that you can apply the force along the axis of the tooth, or axis of the tooth, I should say. Hammers will do it. If you have a chisel and a hammer, it will take that tooth out. It'll take the bone out. It will take you out. But in oral surgeons, when you're under a general anesthetic, they use bone chisels and small mallets to readjust you.
Well, so I don't want to be awake for that.
They're beating the hell out of you while you're asleep.
If you watch video of oral and maxillofacial surgeons at work, you would floss every hour on the hour.
Well, gents, I mean, this is all very interesting, and we might have to do a part 2 to this, but we are quickly running out of time, believe it or not.
Oh, I can believe this. This is fascinating. Now, if you don't understand how important teeth are, Fang Ferrier is going to be back. He's going to explain some more. If you're not listening, if you just can't pay attention, just understand that you better have some booze for that pain and drink up, because why?
We are doomed.
And your teeth will be too. Good night, everybody.
When I was younger, just a bad little kid, my mama noticed funny things I did, like shooting puppies with a BB gun. I'd poison guppies, and when I was done, I'd find a pussycat bashing its head. That's when my mama said, you'll be a dentist. You have a talent for causing things. Hey, son, be a dentist. People will pay you to be inhumane. Your temperament's wrong for the priesthood.